Welcome back, everyone. I'm Winter, and I'm here to talk to you about all the important changes coming with Season 1 of 2019. Starcraft 2 is getting some new balance changes. WCS Winter is coming up. New maps added to the pool and the Team Liquid map contest, all starting in the next few days and weeks. The patch comes out January 22nd of 2019 with one of the most important changes. This change was already added for you map makers out there and everyone else who can appreciate it. The doodad limit has been increased to 100,000. You know what to do. And now, on to less important news, massive balance updates. Greetings, it's been almost 2 months, which is surprisingly short. There have been some epic changes, I think. Wait, did they say epic changes? I saw epic somewhere. The basic changes that we're going through, I'll give a little bit of a breakdown on how they affect matchups and maybe summarize at the end. I might go into more detail on what I think about the changes. This is mostly just an update thing. I'll slip in some commentary. These include, but not limited to, bringing more parity to the late game of various matchups, well, that's a nice word, and increasing opening and composition diversity in Protoss versus Zerg. So the first one, for Terran. The Cyclone, the mag field accelerator research time increased from 79 to 100 seconds. That is the upgrade that essentially doubles the damage of the Cyclone lock-on. So we've gotten a lot of varied feedback on the strength of Cyclones in TVZ, but as we feel counter strategies against Cyclones are still developing, it's too early to hit this matchup too heavily. What I'm going to do, I'm going to describe all the changes for each race, and then I'm going to kind of go and say why they matter together. Because alone, it's different, but all the changes together do matter. Thor, high impact payload weapon range increased from 10 to 11. Battlecruiser weapon refit time, which is Yamato Cannon. Did you know it wasn't called Yamato Cannon? Maybe, maybe not. But from 43 to 100 seconds. So that's a drastic change. The summary here is Terran versus Zerg. Right now, the 1-2 punch, as I have a guide that you can check out, of battlecruisers into especially Cyclone Hellion, makes it so Zerg either is forced either to all in, or they have to hope to respond correctly. And it leaves, in Blizzard's opinion, and apparently other players, a very narrow response for Zerg players, and this is essentially a nerf to Terran versus Zerg. The Thor buff is to give especially mech players an option to fight in the later game instead of being forced to do a lot of damage in the early game. A lot of complaints that Terran players have, or at least comments, are that Terran struggles. Like, if they don't do damage in the early game against Protoss, and to an extent against Zerg, the other races kind of get to a point where they're unbreakable. So the idea here is to take some of the punch out of the Battlecruiser and out of the Cyclone follow-up, so that way Zerg maybe has a little bit more breathing room. I don't see these changes, especially the Battlecruiser changes, Battlecruisers don't really happen in Terran versus Terran or Terran versus Protoss. They're much riskier as compared to Zerg, who doesn't have as strong anti-air early on. The Cyclone does see some use in TVP, so it is part of the TVP proxy all-ins, and that will take a little bit of the wind out of those sails, but there's some Protoss. Before you're like, Blizzard does hate Terran. When are they going to get it out of the game? When is it going to be removed? Wait, hold. We'll see. Zerg, coming up next. Ultralisk Anabolic Synthesis Ultra Speed. Upgrade now increases Ultralisk movement speed off of creep by 0.82, up from 0.41. I'm not a math expert, but I believe that's twice as much. So, oh, they say that. I learned how to read. Okay, guys, I'm the best reader. We've doubled its effectiveness. The new new speed off creep will allow Ultras to slightly outpace Stim Bio even when they aren't kiting. So, I can already hear the Terrans, and I feel like I'm gonna need to do an extra video for the comments. I haven't even read the comments on Battle.net, but I feel like that's gonna be a whole nother video in and of itself. So I'm looking forward to that. Hold, Terran players. Hold. Okay. Nidus Network, Nidus Worm. Nidus Worm health increased from 200 to 300, but armor from 6 to 5. We haven't seen many used. We believe Nidus all-ins are significantly less powerful. So the change was that Nidus Networks, instead of being invulnerable while burrowed, they could be killed. but they had a lot of armor, so that means like workers couldn't kill them, and Zerglings would have a tough time. Bigger units like tanks or roaches wouldn't struggle, or stalkers. So the all-in potential is down, but the mobility is what they're going for. They want you to be able to place Niduses and for them to be an option to move your units around. So the next changes are actually really interesting for this. You can, of course, see the description. Zerg players offensive against cannon contains. Nidus network and Nidus worm initial unload delay decreased from 0.36 to 0.18. And that's in seconds, I assume. Nidus network and Nidus worm unload period decreased from 0.36 to 0.18. And load. So that means they blow out and suck in faster. There's no easier way to describe it. The initial is faster, with the units coming out faster, like Zerglings. Some of the complaint from Zerg players was like, well, I don't want to send an Ultra through a Nidus. But, yes, much like a wet dry vac. Yes, that's what we were all thinking. But the complaint for the Nidus was, one, it's risky. It still costs a lot, and unloading Zerglings like so slowly. I kind of would like to see something where maybe that you can't put units that are over like massive units in it, like your mother, but instead it's smaller units only, and it pops out a lot faster. But this is an interesting change where essentially the Nidus unloads and reloads twice as fast. So we'll see. It's just going to be flinging them out. It's going to feel so fast for a week or two. It's going to look super broken for at least a couple weeks. But most balance changes like this are. And now Protoss. There are some very interesting and amusing things here. First off, I want to note the trend from Blizzard of trying to, now that we've shifted from Starcraft time, which was actually faster than real time, to each thing being in real time and having all these random times, like an adept takes 27 seconds. We're trying to get back to round numbers, like weapon refit from 43 to 100. But I don't think that's the main concern. I hope not. But I'm noticing it. Gateway build time for the adept increased from 27 to 30. So that means only before warp gate. Only the initial adepts out of the gateway, a few seconds out. And they detail why. The Terran players mostly. It's Zerg versus Protoss a little bit, PvP a little bit, but mostly PvT. So the issue was the adept would be chrono boosted out, get across the map, and be able to delay a command center. And there's almost nothing you can do to stop it without pulling extra SCVs or just leaving your Reaper at home, denying your scouting opportunities. So the initial adept will take a little bit longer to come across the map, but at the same time, there's another change. Warp gate from 114 to 100. So this is like 14 seconds on warp gate is like half a warping cooldown. So this is a big change. This is especially, you know who's gonna feel this the most? Protoss players. Like PvP, you thought PvP was gonna be the all-ins were gonna be gone. No. So this is kind of balancing out some of the other changes. Another interesting thing, Blink decreased from 150 to 100. We're certainly seeing more RoboBay experimentation. We'd like to research cost of Blink. Essentially, they're trying to encourage Blink Stalker Disruptor, which is always fun. Good luck, Protoss players, PvP. But the warp gate change. The big concern I was hearing from Terran players, the warp gate change and the Blink change. They're both, cheaper, and warp gate is quicker. Blink all-ins being very dangerous. I'm not sure that's going to be huge. Blink all-ins are not massive in Protoss versus Terran right now. I don't know if this will change that. The real limiting factor on Blink isn't really the cost. It's not really the cost. It is the time. Blink is a long upgrade. I'm not sure the exact time, but it's one of the longest upgrades in the game. I think it's about as much time as Stim, which is also quite a long time. So that is the usual barrier. So they're lowering the barrier to Blink, but it still takes quite a while before the Blink is effective. Another interesting... Everything's getting cheaper. But wait. Or is it? We're about to find something very hilarious. Very hilarious. I'm overselling that. Anyways, Robo Facility cost decreased from 200, 100 to 150, 100. They were flirting with this idea in the big patch. They decided not to go with it. But in general, essentially, Blizzard is trying to be like, well, you can do not Stargate. Guys, you know there are buildings that aren't the Stargate, especially in PvZ. They did say it at the top, like diversity of PvZ builds. AKA, you could go not Stargate, guys. But wait, a massive nerf to the Immortal. It now costs 275, 100 instead of 250, 100. That is half a probe or one observer of minerals. So other races, yeah. Do you feel for Protoss now? And that is, speaking of observers, it's something. Immortals are very strong, so, and they don't want proxy robos. 25 minerals in a proxy actually is not insignificant. So, it's something, right? The observer movement speed, this is actually quite big. Movement speed from 2.63 to 3. So that's about a 20% increase. Maybe a little bit less than that. This is the observer to be able to more compete with scouting options from the Stargate. I think that's a good change. That is one of the struggles of not going Stargate, especially in Protoss versus Zerg. Especially in Protoss versus Zerg, is if you don't go Stargate, you can't actively scout the Zerg very reliably. Like a Stargate, you by definition are in their base, getting up in their grill, doing something they don't like, and by that nature, scouting. So observer speed, that's a good. I like that one just in general. I like anything that allows players to make smarter decisions. Oracle. Now this is a pretty big change. Remove the light attribute and added the armor attribute. So this is. They just put a new coat of paint on it. And this is the modifier, not like it actually has more armor, but this is going to have a dramatic effect in Protoss versus Protoss and Protoss versus Terran. So, Protoss versus Protoss, Phoenixes do extra damage to light, which means they kill Oracles pretty hard. But if they're armored, the Phoenixes will be less of a direct counter, but Stalkers will be better, because Stalkers do extra damage to armored. It's detailed here. This also affects Protoss versus Terran, where Vikings and Cyclones both do extra damage to armored, but not to light. So that means Terran now has very effective counters in the relatively early game against essentially Stargate openers and Oracles specifically. And Protoss, well, they're trying to kill the Stargate. Okay, not kill it, but they're trying to tell the Stargate to stop hogging the production tab in every PvZ and some PvTs. So everything on the ground. Well, here's another one as well. Speaking of Stargate, Tempest movement speed decreased and acceleration decreased. So, you know all those new speed mods that the Tempest got? We're going back. Now we're gonna trade in that Bugatti for a nice, still stylish, still sleek BMW. That's the Tempest now. Not as quick, not as sporty, but still sleek. All right. Specifically because Terran's bitch too. I mean, Terran's had complaints about how there was really no easy way to counter the Tempest because Terran units are slow and clunky without much range. It is a good change. I do agree. So what does this all mean in the grand scheme of things? We're just gonna break down the matchups quickly. We'll start from Terran, like Terran versus the other races from both sides. Terran versus Terran. The Cyclone Magfield research time, not going to change much. Battlecruiser not going to change much. Thor not going to change much. This might make the Cyclone a little bit less of your standard defensive move in TVT, but it's really not going to, like, honestly, TVT not going to see much of a change from this, in my opinion. Terran versus Zerg. So, this is the biggest one. The Battlecruiser, I don't think this completely negates the battlecruiser being a strong opener, because a battlecruiser is still a battlecruiser. 550 HP, it's not easy to kill. This just removes the ability to just, bam, dead queen, or dead queens, or whatever, and anti-air being knocked out immediately. It gives Zerg a bit more breathing room when it comes to dealing with initial battlecruisers, because they won't come with that cannon loaded out. Still, and with the combination of the Cyclones, it's a little bit riskier to go for the BCs, because if they're out of position or get killed, then Cyclones will be less able to pressure or defend. So, we might see a little bit more of a shift away from the battlecruisers in TVZ. I don't think this is like, we're killing mech again, but battlecruiser, as a Zerg and as a Terran, okay? As a Terran who uses battlecruisers and as a Zerg who experiences them, battlecruisers are quite strong. And probably had this coming. I'll say it. And now Terran versus Protoss. It takes some options away from proxies. There's a bit better counter to air in the Thor. Will this increase mech? I think this actually pushes mech. Mech is already still a little rare in TVP, especially in games that don't start off with like a weird proxy play. And honestly, this is probably going to push it further off the table. Gumiho might get onto the floor and be like, well, what about mech? But I think this is a pretty big hit, too. Because the Cyclone was the thing that keeps things alive in the earlier game. And anything, like, it's already a precarious place. Not that you need to have... I've always been annoyed by, like, as Terran, we should play 2 equal viable styles. It's like, well, sometimes it's just not going to work. Not going to work, okay? Deal with it. Now, oh, we covered all those. We're covering just from the perspectives of the races. ZVZ, Nidus, maybe something. I don't know. Probably not. But... Because if you see the Nidus, you can still kill the Nidus. Fun fact, it takes 3 Banelings to kill a Nidus now. Well, wait. Now it'll take 4. So if you know a Nidus is coming. I'd love to see it more in the later game, but ZVZ doesn't usually make it that far, so we'll see. ZVT, it'll be less like, is there a battlecruiser coming or not? Ultralists will now still die, but be a lot scarier to... players who just do nothing but run away from them. I don't think this will make Ultras like... Now we can go Ultras again, because higher level Terran players are... If they see Ultras coming, they're ready. If they don't see them coming, you're probably already way ahead as a Zerg. Still, it's something. We'll see. Now, Zerg versus Protoss. I'm thinking now about the changes. The first Adept, this is actually a little bit of a buff to Zerg, is the Adept changes. The Oracle change doesn't, like, Queens and Spore Crawlers don't do extra damage to light or armored. So the Oracle change is irrelevant here. The Blink changes and the Tempest changes, those are changes to the Death Ball. I think there might need to be... But after the patch, the feeling is still that Zerg is super limited against Terran, and struggles in the late game against Protoss. I'm not saying they need to be changed, but I think the unit that you'd have to take a second look at, or the building you have to take another look at, would be the Spire, and how that relates to, like, Corruptors or something. For example, this is me just saying dumb things. This is not... I haven't thought this through at all. The first thing that came to mind is... The Greater Spire now has a Hive Tech upgrade that is Corruptor speed. Corruptors move 40% faster. So that way you can deal with a Sky Toss Death Ball without getting stormed everywhere. But that's just literally off the top of my head. I gave no thought to that until 3 seconds before I said it, so. Protoss versus Zerg. I think people will still go Stargate, is the thing. Even with all these changes, I think it'll still be Stargate openers. Because there's nothing against Zerg that changes Stargate openers from being good. Like, the Oracle, changing the Oracle is not gonna change PvZ. And, like, there's nothing here that makes the Stargate less of a good option. or give Zerg more options, even though they said they wanted to change it. So, to be honest, I feel the opening composition diversity in PvZ doesn't... Like, they're giving Protoss more tools. That's like saying, well, you've got... I don't know. You've got your premium brand name slap chop, but we have a few good generic slap chops that are almost as good. It's like, well, if the Stargate's working, why would you change it? The Nidus, like, going Nidus is still not, like, a counter to the Stargate opener, so. I don't know why I went with slap chops. But, besides, I don't feel this really changes much in the openers in Zerg versus Protoss, to be honest. The follow-ups may change. Like, instead of going from Oracles into more Oracles, it might be like Oracles into Blink Stalker Disruptor or something. But, yes, the transition normally is Oracles into, guess what? Moracles. We'll see, though. I think the TVZ changes are actually better. Make it a little bit more... Like, getting to the mid-game, TVZ, if it makes it to the mid-game, is usually the most entertaining matchup, in my opinion. Almost no matter what the unit compositions, just because of the give and take on it. Protoss versus Terran is going to be very interesting, I think. Because right now, Terrans are, well, if you listen to Terrans, they're struggling against Protoss. And there's nothing here that's going to help that besides the Adept change. The Adept change, I mean, just getting your command center up is big. This interaction is often cited by Terran pros, why TVP macro play feels at a disadvantage. Bigger disadvantage than before. Not being able to reliably get your expansion up is a big deal. That's the simple version. So, that is the balance changes coming to you January 22nd of 2019. We'll see what it changes. Now, I don't know how much these will affect me, because I'm still bad, and you're still bad. I don't think Cyril's going to be watching this video, but if you are, please leave a comment, and I'll pin it. Please, Cyril, please. Tell me your thoughts. And this is not it. We're not done. We got more coming up in the new season. We're going to go to WCS Winter. We just finished up the qualifiers. You can find more on YouTube from my full coverage of the Americas qualifiers. But the events, well, the main event will begin. Well, let's get to the rounds of 32. Is there a date on this? Did they put a date? Oh, I wanted a date. Okay, go to wcs.starcraft2.com. Oh, maybe I could just do that. Okay. All right. So, it's starting on January 31st, coming up very soon. Some of the players off the top of my head that qualified from North America: Scarlet, Neeb, M. Canning, Future, Jon Snow, Silky, and like 20 others. There's a lot. Go to wcs.starcraft2.com, and hopefully they update this site regularly, which was an issue in the past, but hopefully they are. And also, new maps. New maps! First off, well, we'll get to the Team Liquid map contest a little bit after this, but new maps, some of which you may recognize. They didn't actually put the artists on here, but I think I know most of them. I'm very excited for all these. Some of them I complained heavily that they weren't already added. But first off is Cyber Forest by PK. Wait, what? Can I go back? Did it take me to another site? Why would you do that? I don't know. So, a larger map with a lot of choke points, but it's pretty. Year 0 is like Stasis if Stasis didn't suck and also had Amon watching over everything. So it's pretty much, the layout is very roughly similar to Stasis, but there's not ridiculous choke points, watchtowers, and gold bases. It's actually a solid, I think this will be a very entertaining map, and wait till you play on it. It's not nearly as monotone dark as it looks. This is the one that I voted for first in the Team Liquid map contest. King's Cove, from the maker of Abyssal Reef, but unfortunately the seas have dried up, and then this is also Abyssal Reef, but very slightly different, and also not underwater. So, but it's on the beach. We're back to the beach. And then New Repugnancy I'm going to have a lot of fun with that name. This map reminds me a little bit more... I've played a few games on it. It definitely is a map. If you get 4 bases, you can lock that down. It can end up being a super defensive map because there are some choke points that you can't avoid. I see this being a half map. Like, draw a line in the whatever this is, and we'll fight it out from here. New 2v2 maps. We're very slowly making the 2v2 map pool not a dumpster fire. It's going at this point. I think the fire's out. It's still just a dumpster. Efflorescence. It's another community map. It will be the second one. And then these are all from the Team Liquid map contest, of which there's another one coming up. Rosebud in 3v3. And Shipwrecked. Another beach map. So every single map, instead of being on an abandoned, dirty space station, we finally graduated to the beach, to the wastelands, which is still better, to the fancy estate, to the luscious jungle, the cyber forest. I'm excited. Because nothing, like, it's a mental thing, to be honest. Like, we had this issue in earlier years. There was literally a map called Slag Pits that, well, it was very fitting, let's put it that way. The map pulls like 5, 7 maps, almost, well, sometimes 7 maps that are different, like 7 shades of gray. And now, let me tell you what maps are going to be removed in the next season. The final 1v1 map list: Port Alexander, Kairos Junction, Automaton Year Zeros, King's Cove, New Repugnancy, and Cyber Forest. So, let's do some math. Stasis is gone. Parasite, gone. Cerulean Fall, gone. Those are the 3 being removed. Oh. I could have just read. I don't know how to read, so that's a problem. But, and Blue Shift. Yeah, it's right there. It's right there. And one last thing coming up with this new season. It's not necessarily for the new season, but where is it? Where is the announcement for the Team Liquid map contest? Real quick, for you map makers out there, let me go ahead and find the information real quick. The Team Liquid map contest is ongoing right now, and you can still submit. So there are new features to be added: rich Vespine geysers, reduced mineral fields, and inhibitor zones, which are essentially a neutral time warp. The submission phase ends on February 3rd. You already missed the early criticism phase of it, but if you're going to send in maps, go ahead and check out the Team Liquid map contest, and maybe we can all play and complain about your map on the ladder. That's the dream, right? So, and also that you can win money. There's also that. You can win money. So, that's good. Check that out. All this info will be in the description below, or copy-pasted and misinterpreted in Twitch chat if that's how you prefer it. But what do you think about the balance changes? Do you like where Blizzard is going with the game? What they're adding? The new maps? Anything like that? Make sure to like this video, smash a kappa in the chat, subscribe in one way or another, do all those exciting things, because Starcraft 2 in 2019 is going strong, but it could always be stronger, and so could my bank account. So, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of Season 1 of 2019. I'm looking forward to especially WCS Winter, and also losing more ladder points. See you soon.